Welcome to our Line Opinion panelists sitting around the table. In person this week, we're happy to be joined by former New Mexico State Senator Dee Dee Feldman. Tom Garrity is here. He's president and founder of the Garrity Group Public Relations Company. And attorney and public safety analyst Ed Perea is with us as well. Ed, thank you all for being here. Now, following a record revenue year for the state, the Governor's State of the State address featured a number of large spending bills. One of the first proposals mentioned in the Governor's State of the State address asks lawmakers for $1 billion in economic relief, which would include $750 rebates to each individual taxpayer here in New Mexico. Now, and $1,500 for couples. If approved, this would mark back-to-back years with rebates for New Mexicans. And Senator, I got to ask you this: does the rebate provide actual economic relief to the state, or is this a repeated rebate, a political move from the governor or our legislature? I didn't hear much juice following this idea, having a tax rebate. How about you?
Well, it is a repeat of last year, and I don't know how long we could keep doing this. I guess every time we have a big surplus, we're going to give another tax break to ordinary people, and that looks very political. But the governor did say that it was for people who really needed it now. But this isn't across the board.
That's right.
This isn't across the board, 750 or 1,500. Now that does stimulate the economy because people spend that money. But I think you really have to weigh how long you can keep doing this. And I know that there are some that would like to mandate that every time there's a surplus, there be a certain amount given back to the public. Well, that counts out any kind of investment you want to make with these funds.
Because that's an idea floating out there. Massachusetts has that. They've codified this idea: if it goes over a certain line, everybody gets some money back. That's interesting, though, the investment part. I hadn't heard about that.
Well, it's a trade-off.
Yes,
it's a real trade-off.
Exactly. Well, you can do that in a wealthy state. You can't do that in a not wealthy state. I'm curious how you found the totaling up of the money the governor has proposed out there, the individual. That's a lot of money she's proposing.
Well, her budget is not really, proposal is not that different from the legislative. Hers is, I think, about $9.3 billion, and I forget what the legislative one is. But in her State of the State address alone, she suggested programs that were worth about $1.5 billion. Wow. These were the investments that I was talking about earlier. These were investments, although it did include also the tax breaks, but it was for police recruitment. It was for an environmental legacy fund. It was for universal daycare. It was for school lunches. It was for pay raises, 4% pay raises for teachers. It was for fire relief for the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire. And you could count them all up. And there's a rural health care delivery fund.
That's right.
And these are all things that New Mexico needs and has not had the opportunity to do before.
That's a good point there.
So I think that's what she's suggesting.
Tom, following the tax rebate idea, the governor also proposed a tax reform package, including cutting the state's gross receipts tax. As a business owner, lots of business owners watching, this has been bandied about for a long time. Obviously, tax reform has been out there for a long time too, but I'm wondering what you made of that proposal.
It's I always like, as a business owner, whenever I hear that there's going to be either tax reform or a reduction in GRT. What always kind of makes me a little bit nervous, though, is just as the GRT is reduced at the statewide level, it increases at the local level. So how is it? One bit of flow is going to be knocked out, but another one is going to come back, and so it might not be necessarily on the hands of the legislature, but it's how do the counties around the state respond. And overall, I think that the promise of tax rebates, I think that's a good thing. The promise of tax reform is a good thing from a business perspective. The threat of additional regulation and additional, must-dos for small business owners especially, that's where it gets a bit frightening. Because, coming out at the end of, of a 3-year, COVID, recession, small businesses just don't need any additional rules and regulations. You just need to make it easier for them. And so hopefully that will be an end result of this legislative session, is more tools to help as opposed to more regulations to follow.
That's a good way to put it. Absolutely. Ed, lots of law enforcement ideas out there. A lot of money. Dee Dee just mentioned one of them, an academy. We've had a lot of trouble recruiting police officers here. As a law enforcement person, were you encouraged by what you heard from the governor in the State of the State?
It really was. The governor's State of the State was very aspirational. It was very positive, and I think that's what we all want to hear. And now it's going to come down to sort of the nuts and bolts on how to get these accomplished. We realize that crime in our state is a serious problem, and it's on top of everyone's mind. And we are all trying to come up with ideas, and the governor, in this case, is trying to come up with ideas in how to reduce the crime problem that we have. And she came up with several good proposals, and where they go remains to be seen. But one of them is to hold gun owners accountable for the securing of their firearms. We've had some high-profile cases, unfortunately, where individuals were able to get hold of their parents' firearms and cause harm to themselves or others. And so that's something that's important to look at. Also the other thing too is she's proposed that victims of gun crimes be allowed through legislation to sue gun manufacturers, and that is we know California is doing that already, and that's in motion. And so we're following California's lead, and I think that's also important, and that's consistent with the recent Supreme Court decision as it relates to abortions and doctors who are performing abortions. So we're taking sort of the opposite view of that precedent that the federal Supreme Court has established. And she's also talked a lot about funding ways in which we can improve recruitment of police officers. We realize it's incredibly important that we have the best and the brightest public safety officers out there. And I think there's a need throughout the state to have the best public safety officers possible and law enforcement officers. So she's attempting to address that issue as well through some of the funding that she is doing. And so I'd like to see more of that. I think we have a little ways to go to deal with that issue. So I think it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Senator, there was a call which was met with lots of applause to ban assault weapons. And I'm curious, not the politics of it, whether it will pass or not, we're a little early for that, but just this idea of using assault weapons as a proxy, perhaps, for all gun violence here in the state. How does this play out politically? A lot of folks are out there saying, look, a lot of crimes being committed not with assault weapons out there. Is this really going to solve anything? How does the governor approach that idea?
Well, I think the governor was clearly trying to tie some of these gun control measures into the overall crime problem that we have here in New Mexico. And she did reference, I think, the thousands of guns that were illegally obtained in Albuquerque alone, and addressing some of these, some of the availability of guns through straw purchases was another thing that she mentioned as a possible piece of the puzzle to solve the crime problem. But she was most passionate, I think, in her address when she addressed the responsibility that the legislature and the governor had for protecting the safety of New Mexico citizens. And I think gun control is part of that for her, but also she has also gone to bat for this idea of rebuttable presumption and holding people in jail a little bit longer than they before their trial if they present a danger. So I think that was a big picture item for her, and it is actually I think the number one problem for the state at this point in terms of our reputation.
That's a good point.
In terms of economic development and safety, quality of life.
You've teed up beautifully our next segment. We're going to talk about shootings and public safety, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that in early, kind of set us up there. But Tom, I'm going to bounce off of crime for a quick sec. go back to education, lawmakers are considering increasing instructional hours in public schools. And if approved, the change would increase required number of instructional hours for K through 12 students. Should lawmakers extend the school year for public schools? This has come up before. I mean, we had year-round school here in Albuquerque years ago.
Yeah.
That failed miserably.
Yeah, education, public education specifically, is going through a lot of different transition. We're seeing that take place in Albuquerque just with the new school plans and possible consolidation and restructuring. They're in the rural areas, rural New Mexico, very much against adding additional hours. Actually, I haven't heard many parents saying that they're in favor of this. I think it raises, there is the short-term headline and the long-term solution. The short-term headline is let's increase instructional hours, right? Because it's a feel-good. From those of us who don't have kids in school, it's like, yeah, that's what they need is more school. Whereas the long-term solution is really, what is being done with the hours that the students are in the classroom right now? And is there something that can be done, maybe with fewer regulations or requirements for teachers to hit certain items? What can be done with the hours that we have to give teachers more freedom to teach and parents more opportunity to be involved?
That's an interesting point there. They're going to add 150 hours to elementary students, additional 60 hours for middle and high school students. That's no small amount of time.
Oh, that is solid time. I mean, that's preparation time for teachers, and it's time for parents as well. I mean, let's look at the time that the parents have and that the teachers have right now, see what we can do with that first before adding additional hours.
Good stuff there. Thanks to our line opinion panel. We'll be back in less than 10 minutes to talk about the arrest of a former candidate for the State House, charged as the mastermind behind a string of shootings targeting lawmakers.